Welcome to Oscar-worthy content. I'm Naanless, and I'll be graciously accepting the award for Best Story Regurgitation. But before we get into it, a quick recap. The party watched as Regal experienced one hell of an end-life crisis. The gang snuck into the palace of Alishanira and brought a successful businesswoman straight to the good lord above. And finally, Bagunga and his circus group bullied an actual demon lord to death. Alright, recap over. Let's get into it. Whilst wandering and spreading whimsy, the gang come across a strange group of crusaders, who immediately drop to their knees and begin screaming about the return of their holy martyr, the Muad'Dib. Turns out that the cult Ember founded in episode 11 assumed she died along with the rest of the party when entering the abyss. So in her death, she became a holy martyr. This, of course, only served to fuel the cult's growth. Anyway, these lads were on their way to reclaim the Holy Land. The Holy Land being the random, unmarked location where Ember's tears shattered an altar of Baphomet. They ask if their actual god and her friends want to tag along. Of course, they accept, and join them on this mini crusade within a crusade. The party make it to the Holy Land. Some of the redeemed are already facing Baphomet's forces. The party rush to their aid.
You won't survive me.
Once the demons start taking significant losses, they call in reinforcements. But some of these reinforcements have already heard Ember's sermons and refuse to hurt her. They instead convince themselves to betray their nature and become the first demon crusaders. This conversion rate can't be normal, right?
Can't you just die already? Make every strike count.
Ember pleads with the remaining demon forces to stop fighting. War is pointless. It only brings death. They should instead pray, repent, and be redeemed. Despite her best efforts, a small group of demons hold strong and refuse to convert. Unfortunately for them, freedom of religion doesn't exist yet.
I won't go down. Press the attack! You've crossed the wrong mongrel. Lacking. You are lacking. You won't survive me.
It all worked out so strangely. We've killed many people. We've saved many people. These knights came here to kill each other, but instead, they became friends. The redeemed knights want me to go with them, to teach and guide them. But I'll stay where I'm needed most, with you. They managed even when they believed I was dead. My words have shown them the right path, and that's good. Now they can save each other and themselves without me. It's so good that we met. We've already done so much together, and we have so much more to do.
This marks the end of Ember's personal story, but there's still so much we don't know about her. I'm way too smooth-brained to put the pieces of lore together, so I'll recap what I've learned while reading through this game's lovely community. As Primarch Star 2087 said a year ago, Ember's bird is either an aspect of or is Imperial Lord Andaletta. I personally believe that Ember is genuinely just a naive, mentally ill elf girl who is being granted powers beyond her understanding by a borderline god for unknown reasons. Thankfully, she seems to be using her powers for good, as far as I know. But if you want to know more, I'll link an interesting Steam discussion page in the description. Anyway, the party returned to Dresden with their adorable little martyr. On their way to the command room, they decide to check in on Chief Soul and the mongrels. Somehow, they find the chief in a more battered state than last time. He's barely able to speak due to the distinct savamelic black liquid gushing out of his orifices. Through the few words that can be understood, the party learned that Savamelic did in fact put his grand plan into motion. He activated the dormant demon blood in all mongrels, turning them into his slaves. Savamelic then commanded his flock to the Valley of Temples deep in Iz. Lon, fearful for the safety of his people, begs the commander for immediate action. The mongrels must be saved. So the party send Chief Soul to the nearest ER and head straight to the Valley of Temples. After a couple days' travel, the party make it to their destination. They find themselves in front of a familiar scene. Just like in the Shield Maze, Savamelic is seen killing Aasimars and feeding their corpses to his corrupted mongrels. Bagunga springs into action, but is stopped by Lon. This is his people, and he has a plan. He begs the commander to trust him and let him speak to Savamelic alone. Bagunga reluctantly indulges him. After all, with Finian as his weapon, Lon is never truly alone. So he puts on his best corrupted mongrel act and pushes forward. The party follow behind stealthily, wiping out any corrupted stragglers along the way. Finally making it to Savamelic, the corrupter of his people, Lon steals his resolve and puts on his best corrupted act, even calling the demon his father. Savamelic is pleased that he seemed to have shaken that pesky commander and found his true people. He offers Lon power for his loyalty, and he can earn it in two different ways. Either consume the corpse of an Aasimar, or get injected with more of the demon's blood. Lon chooses direct injection, hoping that the commander's presence is enough to stave off corruption, allowing him to use his new power to save his people. The moment the blood enters his veins, Lon drops to his knees. The pain is unbearable. He spends a couple minutes on the verge of agonizing death, until he pulls through. Unsure of what's happened to Lon's body or mind, the party watch from a distance as he, without warning, begins unloading his quiver into Savamelic.
This one's mine! Kneel before me! Go!
I'm still here. I'm still here, Commander. So this is what dying feels like. And I thought I'd barely feel a thing. Take care of my tribe. Please. Maybe it's a good thing I didn't become the chief. If you're gonna go and sacrifice yourself, you can't have others depending on you. And it's been an honor to take orders from a commander like you. A lot of things have happened, but it's been fun at times. I'll have a few stories to tell for Asma. If her spirits come to get me, I'll tell them. Hey, you guys, you won't believe.
Lon is gone. He died a hero of the Crusade, liberating his oppressed people. He ensured that every future generation of mongrels will be born free, truly free. Bagunga depressingly takes Finian from Lon's lifeless hands, and then turns to the remaining mongrels. They refuse to return to Dresden and aid with the crusade. They've lost too much. Instead, they'll return to the caves beneath Canabras and return to their old lives. A major blow to the party and a guttural punch to the crusade. marks the end of Lon's story. The gang returned to Dresden depressed and defeated. But before they could move on, they have to fill the missing slot in their party. Finian turns himself into a longsword and gloomily jumps into his new owner's hands. Everyone, please welcome the return of Episode 1's very own, Sela. With a renewed party, the gang returned to their usual duties in the command room. Psst, hey, remember Episode 6, where we discovered that Darrenday has a terrifyingly powerful entity forebodingly called the Other within his body? Well, Liator, the only other person who knows about it, is back from his research trip. He says that the Other is an ancient entity, and it's had many doorways like Darrenday throughout history. Just imagine a cosmic prairie dog, but instead of retreating into a hole, it retreats into blackmailed victims. Luckily, Liator says he's found a ritual that can weaken it enough for an effective beatdown. The problem is they have to somehow lure it out of Darrenday without him knowing. Obviously, you've watched Episode 6 and actively remember that if the Other finds out that anyone knows about it, it will immediately kill Darrenday and all of its other gateways. So, keeping all that in mind, here's the plan. Liator will travel to a random, empty, witnessless field and prepare the ritual. Bagunga will lure love of his life Darrenday to the field with one of his classic lies. The Other will sense the genuine fear of death and betrayal and rush out of its safe zone to protect its gateway. Once out of Darrenday's body, the ritual will activate, locking it in place and forcing it to fight. Hopefully, at the end of this, Darrenday can forgive the lying and betrayal. And also the cheating. We could probably just sweep that one under the rug. Anyway, the gang make it to the marked location. Liator's already there with some Inquisitors waiting next to a pyre. Everyone in the gang is confused. What the hell's going on here? That's when Bagunga violently pushes Darrenday to the ground. Liator begins listing his many crimes and sentences him to death by burning. Panicked and confused, Darrenday looks up to his boyfriend for aid, but he's met with cold, condemning eyes. Bagunga tells him that his usefulness as a tool has come to an end. The charade that is their relationship can finally stop. Utterly shattered and betrayed, Darrenday accepts his fate and slowly walks to the pyre. The Other, feeling the genuine feelings of betrayal and impending doom, leaps out of Darrenday's body. Liator activates the ritual and the party jump the cosmic cloud.
Into the fray!
Sufficiently beat, it enters a docile state. Bagunga asks it to identify itself, but it only replies in images of death, space, void, and hunger. Sensing its own likely death, it offers Bagunga power in exchange for survival. But to gain this power, it would have to close its gateways and kill Darrenday. So Bagunga grabs his club and smashes it over the cosmic being, ending this ordeal once and for all. Darrenday sighs a sigh of relief as Liator explains the ruse. Bagunga profusely apologizes for the emotional manipulation. Darrenday doesn't seem to care about the lying. He's simply overjoyed to have finally gotten rid of his ruthless passenger. The two lovers embrace, happy to both be alive and well. Liator interrupts this joyous moment to mention that Darrenday has been in contact with an otherworldly being, and that's apparently against Inquisitor law. So he wants to bring Darrenday to face justice in front of the Inquisitor's tribunal.
I never expected that freedom could be so overwhelming. You see, I spent 10 years of my life with that shadow looming over me. I taught myself to enjoy every single moment, because there was no telling when it would all be ripped away from me. But now the shadow is gone, and I don't know how to go on with my life. We've had so many great moments together. but I truly stopped being frightened only after I realized that there was someone who was not afraid to get his hands dirty for me. Almost from the off, I began to think that this crusade business wasn't so terrible, and that this commander person wasn't as beastly as I'd thought. Who needs regrets, fears, fragile affections, if I can live the way I want and take whatever I want, with someone who understands me by my side? Let's set this world on fire! Or save it if you still want it. With you, I'm ready for anything.
This liberated lover's embrace marks the end of Darenday's story. And somehow I've managed to go through his entire story without saying his name right once. But like most of the names in this series, I refuse to say them correctly. Get owned. Well, now that we've watched Bagunga have more sex than any of us will ever have, it's time to start romanticizing the idea of ending this video. Because, well, that's all I got. If you have extra time on your hands, consider checking out my friends, the Discord channel, and the Naanless Shorts channel. All links in the description. And as always, please like, sub, and consider starting your peeping career by peeping a peep of this peep-worthy outro.